Welcome to 101. I'm Rick Kaplan, and today's guest is Peter Hosford of EBI Consulting, and he's a senior industrial hygienist. And good morning, Peter.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you making out with the COVID-19?
Oh, like most people, surviving, doing well. Working from home, but that's not unusual. Most of our employees work from home.
Well, I would think you're kind of busy in this environment that we're having right now with what you do. Maybe you can explain to us a little bit about what you do.
Okay. Well, as an industrial hygienist, when you think of health and safety, most people think safety, the things that we do to prevent people from becoming injured. But a hygienist focuses on the health, the things that we do to prevent people from becoming ill. And we typically focus on chemical exposures. But now with the COVID virus, we're kind of shifting a little more to biological exposures, which is very typical in your hospital settings and biotech settings. So we're using some of that expertise that we use in biotech and applying it here with the COVID virus. And yes, we're getting calls, quite a few calls from different institutions, industrial real estate and so forth, that are interested in protecting their employees against the COVID virus.
Now, let me ask you something. When they're taking over some of these dormitories to make them into a hospital, or even they were talking about cruise ships, what do you do after this whole thing is over and everyone is exiting that has come through the virus? Now you have this cruise ship or this dormitory. How do you disinfect that? Or should you disinfect it?
Oh, you can definitely disinfect that. There are a lot of disinfectants on the market, some that require a professional touch. So a lot of these companies are hiring, professional cleaning companies to use some of these more potent disinfectants. A technique that will clean a large area is actually fogging the area with a disinfectant, going through and creating a mist or a fog that contacts all the surfaces, then afterwards going through and wiping the surfaces down. And that does a very effective job at removing the viruses, bacteria, and mold spores. Fortunately, the COVID virus is relatively easy to kill relative to other viruses.
It isn't?
Oh, it is.
It is relatively easy to kill.
Yeah, there are 3 classes of viruses, and the COVID virus has a soft lipid coating rather than a harder shell, making it easier to kill than the other types.
So why are we having such an issue with it being so contagious that why can't we just spray like the whole earth with Lysol?
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah,
I guess it's just the prevalence and its contagiousness is not really related to how easy it is to kill. It's still relatively contagious, though it's still fairly easy to eliminate.
So what kind of materials do you need to kill this and make sure your facility is clean?
Well, there are a lot of materials that are effective. And actually, the EPA maintains a list of registered materials that are shown effective against the COVID virus and emergent viruses, which COVID is. It's a recently emerged virus. And a lot of these are fairly common household products. You have the Lysols, the Purells, those that contain ammonia or bleach or phenol. And if you go to the EPA website, by just doing a web search, you can find the products that are registered and approved. For the typical household and or cleaning staff, I'd recommend they stick with products that they're familiar with. The Lysol, the Clorox, the Purells. and ready-to-use products that aren't concentrated, that need diluting. These are safer for the employees to use.
No, I talk to a lot of people, and one of, everyone has their own little theories and how to build things and what works, what doesn't work. I've heard a lot about the UV lighting.
Yes.
I mean, I talked to one guy, he's trying to get lights for his whole house. So he's going to replace all his light bulbs with UV lights.
There is UV lighting specifically designed and has an intensity strong enough to kill viruses and bacteria and mold spores. You have to be careful. The UV lighting used by professionals is very strong, but it's within a very defined wavelength that is not as damaging to eyes and skin. My concern, if someone ran out and bought some high intensity UV lights that are used, say, in a tanning bed, they could actually do damage to their skin and particularly their eyes. So I'd warn against doing that. There are light systems out there for the pros to use. And if you ever see someone who welds and they wear a dark shaded mask, that's to prevent their eye damage from the UV light, which you could have a similar situation if you went out and bought a broad spectrum UV light source.
Well, everyone's going to be walking around with a tan,
That's right.
Everyone will look healthy, but they're all going to die of the virus.
Yeah.
So the UV lighting it is helpful.
It is helpful.
It will kill the virus.
And it is used during a disinfection for those surfaces that you really don't want to spray a liquid disinfectant on. So let's say you're working in a lab, you have a lot of electronics, a lot of sensitive equipment. The last thing you want to do is spray bleach on it or ammonia-based compounds. So you could use a UV light. And again, the pros would use the light and hold it close and move very slowly across the surface. And the UV light disrupts the DNA and RNA of those viruses.
So then now we're coming into summer. And now we'll have plenty of UV light from the sun. Is that going to be helpful in killing this virus?
Outdoors, likely. UV light doesn't travel well through glass. And that's why your tinted sunglasses, your self-shading sunglasses don't really work well in your car. So in the indoor environment, probably less so.
So in your recommendation, someone has a property or a facility manager or a property manager, they want to reopen the facilities coming up in the next month or so. What would your suggestion be before they open and after they open to protect people coming and going from their facility?
If they're interested in doing a deep clean, hiring a professional contractor to come in and disinfect a large space, that's best left to the pros. They can use the more concentrated, the more powerful disinfectants. They can apply it in a way such as fogging or using an atomized mist that covers all the surfaces. But to do that, you need the proper equipment, the full suits, the respirators, the gloves. And then afterwards, when everything is said and cleaned, done and cleaned, having validation testing done, actually swabbing the surfaces, looking for either the virus, which there isn't much analytical methods for just yet, or a surrogate, such as bacteria or mold spores. If they did a good job cleaning the virus off, they've also done a good job removing bacteria and mold spores. So if you follow up and do testing, you don't see much or any mold spores, then you know the cleaning was done well. Continuing on after that, just in maintaining a very good housekeeping program to wash and disinfect the high-touch surfaces often, and making that program visible so everyone can see that, yes, this property is clean and it's being maintained well.
So there must be some kind of a specialty type of cleaning service that you would have to hire to do that type of maintenance, though. Or would this be most cleaning companies would be registered to do something like this?
I would tend more towards the professionals that you're familiar with. The hazardous waste and bio-waste remediation companies. A few that come to mind would be like Clean Harbors, Veolia, Triumvirate, or the disaster recovery companies, such as ServPro or ServiceMaster. So these companies are very familiar with the process and technique. They have the trained staff and they have the equipment. Now, there may be a janitorial services company in your area or a housekeeping company that's very proficient at this as well. But the key point, actually, is to engage these companies before you have an issue. Kind of vet them, see if they've got written protocols and procedures, they're using the right equipment, they're using the right disinfectants. And if you engage them ahead of time, get all the contract stuff in place, then you can call them in on a much shorter time span than having to go and search for them afterwards after you find you have an issue.
Well, it's great information, and we could go on and on because there's so much to talk about this. But if someone is interested in talking more or finding information on how to protect their facilities, they can contact Peter at EBI Consulting. I'm sure he'd be happy to talk with you, or even work with your company. I'm sure. we never refuse business. Yeah.
Yep.
I want to thank you, Peter. Peter Hosford of EBI Consulting. And like I said, Peter will be happy to talk with you if you have any concerns. Thank you, Peter. Hope you stay safe. And
you too.
Have a pleasant afternoon.
All right. Thank you, Rick. Take care.
Thank you for watching today's interview. If you'd like to be a guest, a sponsor, or even advertise in the New England Real Estate Journal, you'll find our contact information in the description box below. You can also find all our social media platforms so you can follow us. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel.